From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, practice observations where one strength of this team seems to be emerging and looking back at previous seasons for clues to set up expectations for this upcoming season. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code Warchant BOGO. Buy one, get one free. How about the Immune Plus? Buy one of those, get one free. Maybe you want the Burner Plus to be your free one or vice versa. Don't matter. You can use it, mix and match it however you wish. Just go to VitaminEnergy.com. Shake it and take it. 260 milligrams of all-natural caffeine. Start your day off. Carry it with you wherever you got to go. You can dose it out, too, if you want. Take half a shot like I do. Or pour the whole thing like maybe into your big jug of water. Drink it throughout the day. Keeps you energized, level, moderates. Nice. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code Warchant BOGO. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source, FSU1, promo code, all together, no spaces between FSU1. 2 months, $1 American. Get everything that you get here on the podcast, that you get on the headlines, that you get on the Jeff Cameron Show, but deeper dives, more thorough content, written content, which we all would rather read than have to sit here and listen to Corey and I yak for 50 minutes, but that's what we're going to do. Buckle up, everybody. Corey Clark's here, everybody. What's up, Corey? How are you, friend?
What's up, A-Train? How are you doing, buddy?
Choo-choo. Good, man. Good. Practice has been good. I think we're going to get full pads later this morning. Stoked for that. Okay. I mean, when the thigh pads come on, then you know it's real business.
Right. Exactly right, my man. Yeah, so, I mean, they're doing a lot of thudding already. It's pretty physical anyway, but, yeah, I guess that's going to take it that one extra level it can go when they get the full pads on.
Yeah, there's some moments where I thought Coach Clark was going to have to run out there and maybe, I don't want to say put his hands on somebody, but maybe have like a quick 30-second with everybody. Guys were hitting the ground, and I saw coaches, especially like Fuller was getting on his guys for bringing dudes down. Yak was getting on his guys for falling down. And right. I know Coach Clark doesn't like seeing guys hit the field, hit the ground, hit the turf at practice, especially this early in the game.
Yeah, especially there are times when it feels like they got beat and they don't want to get beat. And I'm talking about DBs in particular and one-on-ones or 7-on-7. So they kind of dive at legs. They're obviously not trying to hurt anyone. They're just trying to like make sure they don't give up a long pass or a touchdown. And sometimes there's you don't like that, but it happens all over the country, Aslan. I mean,
it's football.
I know people listening to this that are of our generation or my generation, I should say, that played football would be like, give me a break. Like, that was every practice we ever had in high school back in the 80s and 90s. You were supposed to tackle. And if you didn't like it, don't get tackled. But, yeah, it's obviously a different era we're dealing with here. So, yeah, a couple guys fall into the ground occasionally, which we're not fans of. But, they're all accidents.
Let's start off with observations, obviously. Let's start off on the offensive side of the ball. You and Irish Schofield did a Warchant rap of sorts. Feel weird calling it the Warchant rap because it's the Vitamin Energy Warchant rap, and it's like you guys inside of a huge stadium after battle has been pitched between two great teams for hours, and then you guys are on that battlefield as the dust settles. Meanwhile, we're just hanging out at practice, talk about practice. But you guys talked about the running a game, and you kind of point out the fact that it seems to be a little bit, I don't know, maybe if you said or Ira said, but it seems to be a little bit, maybe I'm saying it, seems to be a little bit further ahead than the passing game right now. But you have good feelings, good vibes on the running attack. You think it's going to be improved from what we saw last year in terms of it seemed to be like feast or famine with Trey. It was home runs or nothing. Don't disagree with you on that is the way it played out last year. I wonder how many teams really do truly like what their median run is in terms of when it breaks out the average-wise. Aren't they kind of in the same boat? They're busting off 30, 40-yard runs, but then getting tackles for loss. Because I like the running game, and I really like the offensive line, but I am still seeing some moments where it's busting off huge runs, but then it's running into the Fuller, the Farmer and Jackson wall of just doom. Yeah. So how much of that you think is going to change when they start playing other competition?
Yeah, I mean, and not just that. Like my man Tomawa and KJ Sampson are out there. Daniel Lyons are out there. So the guys up the middle. I mean, it's not easy trekking. There's some talent even behind your two starters in the middle of the defense. But yeah, if you look up, can you look up last year while I'm on this diatribe real quick and see what they averaged yards per game rushing or where they ranked in the nation? Compared to maybe what they did in 2022. I hate to give you homework on the spot right there, Aslan.
Seriously,
but I'm genuinely curious because I feel like they averaged, I would guess, like 70 yards less per game rushing. 50 to 70 yards less per game rushing in 23 than they did in 22. And they were just straight up mediocre in the running game. They had a mediocre running game even though they had Jordan Travis and a second-day draft pick at running back. Was Trey the first running back taken or the second running back taken in the entire draft?
I think second. I think the guy from Texas went first.
There you go. But overall, he's one of the top 2 or 3, and you had a mediocre running game with that dude. So that's what I think I'm so encouraged by. Through 5 days, again, it's early, and as Aslan said, the full pads don't even come on, we don't think, until today. But, man, they're opening up holes. The running backs are – Keziah Holmes looks very good. Not just, hey, there's a hole and he ran through it. There's a million people that can do that. He's making sharp, quick cutbacks. He looks a little, I don't know, svelter. He quicker. He's fast. I mean, he looks like a dude, man. And Roydell had a couple of really nice runs on Monday. Toafili always busted a run or two every scrimmage or every practice. And it's just – I think that because that travels, man, and that plays. Like, what if DJ is just okay and not special? Well, it might not matter, man, if you can run the ball. Again, even if he's just what he was in 2022. Well, that team he played for in 2022 was 10-1 going into the final game of the season and won the ACC, I think. So that team that he quarterbacked in 2022 at Clemson won 11 games. Well, if you could do that again this year, you're playing for a national championship. And so having a good running game, I think, is paramount for this team. And so far, again, 5 practices. The offensive line, I know it's some of the same guys, but maybe, a guy's in a different spot than he was last year or the year before. I just think they have a ton of experience. They have a lot of depth, and they're a bit bigger with guys like Leonard and Ferguson in the mix. And it looks strong. It looks solid to strong. And if you have a good offensive line, if you have a good running game, you are going to have a good offense almost by default. And I think through 5 practices, they've had a good running game. And now the negative of that is it is completely, in my opinion, outshined the passing game, which is still trying to find a rhythm.
Yeah. All right, you asked for it. You got it, I think.
Yes.
So
I was a 3-minute. I gave you 3 minutes to get up in there.
I went to the NCAA's official site, but they only did yards per game. They didn't break it down per yards per carry, but I found those sites. Shout out to that site. So last year, Florida State had 4.4 yards per carry. That was their average. Yards per rush attempt, which was 56th in the nation.
Yeah.
2022, the 10-3 season, Florida State averaged 5.2 yards per carry, which was 15th best in the country. So, good job, Corey. Way to flesh out that comparison. So, do you see it being kind of split in the difference between the two, 4.4 and 5.2, or do you see it much closer? Do you feel much more confident it's going to be closer to what that 2022 team churned out?
I mean, it just looks to me to be that. It looks to me to be more like the 2022. I thought it in the spring because it's not like a toss sweep where you're getting to the edge and you just have a fast guy and you're taking advantage of maybe linebackers that don't run as well as you'd like. It's up the middle. And sometimes it's even up the middle against when 5 and 6 are on the field. That's Josh Farmer and Darrell Jackson, if you guys don't know. And why would you? Because they both changed numbers. And you've never seen really Darrell Jackson play. But they wear number 5 and 6, which is kind of cool to see, honestly. 2 big dudes like that in single digits. But, yeah, man, I just think that the consistency of the running game, where even if they're not – they had one play where I can't remember who made the play. Oh, it was Aaron Hester. In 11-on-11 on Monday, blew up a play for like a 6-yard loss. But other than that, it's not like a string of TFLs.
Right.
It's not like a bunch of negative 50-yard play. It's a 20-yard run. It's a 4-yard run. It's a 2-yard run. It's an 11-yard run. It's a 13-yard run. It's a 5-yard run. Like, it just seems more productive and more consistent than at any point last season, even during this time in the preseason. And I just think that carries over, that travels. You've got good backs. You don't have any Trey Bensons probably, but you got some good dudes that can do some things. And if you give them holes to run through, those guys can find their way into the secondary and maybe find their way into the end zone.
I don't want to jinx our guy Jalen Lucas, but I just feel like, I mean, this might sound counterintuitive to a lot of people because of his size and his stature, but I don't think he's going to be the recipient of a lot of TFLs. Man, he's like the ultimate bailout for the sort of concepts and the scheme that they run. When they do a lot of counter. There's a lot of guys pulling, so you're having to rely on guys getting there at the right time and not getting lost in the wash of things. But man, like Jalen Lucas, there's a couple plays that they weren't overly impressive, but I think it was when they were doing some 11-on-11 near midfield where it was third down situational stuff. We're like, all right, well, this is going nowhere, but he's able to kind of squirt free and do some really ridiculous cutbacks that nobody else, I think, on this roster would have been able to do, and probably not a whole lot of other guys across the country, but he's able to salvage and move ahead and still get you like 3 or 4 yards, and ends up being a first down. So that was like the cool thing to see. And then I think Keziah Holmes, and you and I are kind of talked about towards the end of the wrap, but Keziah is a guy that I think I had high on my ballot last year going to the preseason top 40, and then I learned my lesson and left him off my ballot completely this year, but I think that might have been an error.
Yeah, I mean, if we're judging by the first week, it probably was, but I think I had him off mine too, just because there's not a lot of care. You know Toafili's going to play, and you know Roydell's going to play, and you absolutely know Lucas is going to be in the game too. Well, now it's becoming a numbers game. Like, okay, where does Keziah fit in? How often do you play him? But the beauty is because Toafili and Lucas especially can be used in the passing game as well, that maybe it frees up some more carries for a guy like Keziah Holmes. I don't know where he can make an impact on this team because, look, man, I would say, again, 5 days, and it's not like they're pounding these guys. Keziah's probably been the most impressive running back. So we're a week in.
No.
And what does Toafili have to do in July of 2024 to make any impression on anyone? He's out there, man. We know what he is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just these guys that are fighting for playing time, because you know number 9 is going to be out there. I think Keziah Holmes has been probably the best of the bunch through 5 games. It's a nice combination of size and speed, man. He can really run. And he's a big kid. I think he's 210 pounds. But either way, man, you could just have pedestrian running backs. If you have a good offensive line that can open up holes, you are going to move the ball, and you're going to win a lot more than you lose. And as we wait for this passing game to come along and find its stride, which it has not yet, it has its moments every practice, but by and large, there's still some inconsistencies. And that goes for all the quarterbacks. The running game, though, is what really gives you hope that, okay, this offense can still be pretty darn good, even if the passing game never just becomes great. If it's just average or a little bit above average, if you have a good running game, you're still going to score a lot of points.
You know, they might start developing a reputation, or at least Alex Atkins, about, I wonder where Richie Leonard's going to kind of rank in the pantheon, if you will, of offensive line transfers, because you go back to 22, Dylan Gibbons transfer, first team, all ACC. He transferred in 2021, but in 2022, he ends up becoming a first team all ACC player. Last year, Demetri Emmanuel, who's a transfer from Charlotte, ends up being first team all ACC. Maybe it'll be Keandre Jones, but I think right now, like Richie Leonard and Keandre Jones looks just so like a cut above the guys behind them. And I don't want to say a cut above the guys they had last year, because again, like Emmanuel was first team all ACC. Yeah. Casey Rock, I think, was a good college offensive lineman, but like those two, like when you see those guys physically, you're like, man, these guys are probably some real big time players, and they are playing like it too. It's cool to see the intersection of like the aesthetics and then the actual execution of things, and I think they're largely kind of responsible for why we're seeing this run game being so successful early on.
And don't you think also, even though I think, is it Jeremiah Byers, I think, Darius, I don't know is it Maurice Smith, Jeremiah Byers, and Robert Scott have all played over 2,000 snaps? Are those the 3 that Norvell keeps mentioning? Darius Washington might have played close to that. It's amazing the number of snaps these guys have played. But, again, they can get better too. And, I think Maurice Smith is better. I think, I honestly did like the way Robert Scott looked on Monday.
He had some plays, man. Yeah, sprung some
and we
stuff.
we know what Darius Washington is. So yeah, man, I just think that these guys are, they're grown men now, dude. What are they, 23? All of them, 22 years old. They're grown men to go along with these two guards. Keandre Jones and Richie Leonard, T.J. Ferguson, the Alabama transfer, enormous dude as well. And they're all what you'd call. Do they still use the term road grader?
Oh, bringing it back.
Remember that one from back in the
day?
day? Like Larry Allen was a road grader.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means to grate a road.
Grade roads, like it's leveling it and making it like, level. Like it's knocking earth down and flattening it out. So like
that's what it means to grate, like grate.
No, it's grade. Like
grade. Oh,
yeah.
See, this whole time I was thinking like a cheese grater.
No, sir.
Well, is a cheese grater?
It is. That is correct. You're right. Yes.
Well, see,
yes.
the English language, man. I feel sorry
crazy.
for anyone that has to learn it as a second one because holy moly, is there some stuff going on. But yeah, so I really do. I do like what that offensive line looks like, and the beauty of it is, as we've touched on, they're not going up against scrubs, man. No. Obviously Farmer and Jackson are a cut above the dudes behind them, and they're a cut above most every defensive tackle combo in the country. But they don't just get mauled by those two dudes all the time either. Like they win their fair share as well, and then they do well against those backups. But Florida State has raised the level of its roster so much that when they're playing a second stringer or a third stringer, it's not a joke. Like these guys can play too, and they can embarrass you if you don't give good effort on that player, if you make a misstep, or if you just get beat. All these guys are capable of beating you, and even a Grady Kelly or like I said, Durajai. Like these guys that aren't going to start are good enough to move people quickly. So they're going up against good talent, man, and iron and all that. It's a really good thing to see because they are getting tested, both sides of the ball consistently every play.
Robert Scott has played 2,082 snaps, making him the freshman of the bunch. Darius Washington has played 2,378 snaps. Maury Smith, 2,787 snaps. Jeremiah Byers, 2,797 snaps.
So they have four guys with over 2,000 snaps.
Four. Yeah.
Okay, Norvell keeps saying three, so we need to maybe
know.
he's not counting on one of them to start. I guess one of them wouldn't.
Well, maybe it's under him. Maybe he doesn't count Darius because Darius, like 2019, he wasn't the coach.
Yeah, but Byers doesn't have 2,000
That's
under
true.
him either.
Yeah, right.
So but think of those numbers, man.
It's absurd.
Those are crazy numbers to have played 2,700 snaps of college football and about to go into your final year. You're going to play over a couple of those guys might play over 3,000 snaps in their college career.
And one of those guys is an odd man out too, right?
Well, right, yeah, true. But yeah, it's football. There's going to be some bumps and bruises, and you're going to have to sub people in. But yeah, I mean that's.
By the way, Keandre, sorry, Corey. Keandre's got 2,049 snaps. So there's another.
So they have
guy.
5 guys with over 2,000 snaps.
Yeah.
That's got to be a first in college football history.
That's a lot.
I mean, that's crazy, man. So again, the point of that being, big dudes, experienced dudes that shouldn't be able to be fooled. They're certainly not going to be rattled by any moments or facing any good defensive lines because they've seen it all. But just that experience, that maturity, physically and mentally, you can't put a price tag on that, man. You can't overstate how important that is this season to have that kind of experience up front.
All right, let's move on to the passing attack, if you will. And by all means, this is the part where Corey's going to correct me because I was mostly watching the offensive line, defensive line. But there was a couple moments where I was looking up and watching some 7-on-7 stuff, even in 11-on-11 where I'm still looking at the line of scrimmages, Corey. There's a couple plays where it's, these are plays that are all based on timing and tempo, where as soon as the snap is made, the quarterback's got to know where to go with the ball. You as the wide receiver need to know whether or not you're going to be engaged in a block or you're going to be having to turn around and look for the football. I saw at least, I think, 3 moments where these kind of plays happened. There was 2 procedure penalties and maybe a false start penalty. These came on pass plays. So, again, we've said that the running game is ahead of the passing game, not panicking by any stretch of the imagination. But, again, this kind of goes to where maybe we check ourselves when we talk about comparing this team to last year and what the final record's going to look like this year. Just you just see certain things in camp right now that maybe we didn't see from last year's team that are correctable, and you've got 20 practices to still figure it all out. But just seeing that kind of stuff gives me a little bit of mild pause as we sit here and haven't gone through a full 7 days of it. And again, they got 20 more of these left, but some of the miscommunication stuff, hope they were able to clean that up. I think they will be able to, but that's the sort of stuff that maybe holds us back from giving effusive praise to the entire offense right now at this juncture, at least for me.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's too many times, in my opinion. Well, I shouldn't say that because, again, like you said, it was practice 5. If we were in the 4th game of the season, this would be something that you'd really harp on. But there's too many times where the ball's hitting the ground, and it's hitting the ground not near anyone of note. Whether somebody ran a wrong route, didn't look up in time. There was a play on Monday where the quarterback, I think, made the right read because it was a corner blitz, and he threw it to the receiver that the corner had just left, and the receiver's just running straight down the field and turns around as the ball is hitting him in the heel because he didn't think, when he saw the corner that was covering him blitz, he didn't think to turn around immediately. He just kept running. The young receiver in their growing pains. Those are the learning curves, and that's something that you don't think will happen again. But it's frustrating in the moment to see that, and it seemed to happen a lot. Quite honestly, it seemed to happen a lot, mostly with Brock Glenn. And I don't know if that's just because he's working. You can imagine who Brock Glenn might be throwing to. It's more of the younger guys, typically. And they're just not quite on the same page a lot of times. But there were multiple times, like you said, where it seemed like there was nobody in the picture. There was nobody on the screen where the quarterback was throwing it. And in Brock Glenn's case, there were too many times, in my opinion, just on Monday. Well, going back to Sunday too, there's some layup throws he's just got to make. Yeah. You know, there's just some and I think he can make, and I think it frustrates him and the coaches that he's missing these because they're easy throws, open guys, easy throws, and you just got to put it on them. I thought DJ was again solid, not special, but solid. He did make an incredible throw to Ja'Kai Douglas by the sideline in 7-on-7. Just whipped it. Just one of those where you do see the arm and you're like, oh man, that's special. For like a 30-yard gain in 7-on-7. He and Malik Benson for a big gain too. Made a really nice throw to Morlock a couple times. So he had his moments too, and no interceptions again, which again is like I said, it's good to be this boring. Not throwing interceptions, not making any mistakes. Had scrambled a few times when people weren't open, that kind of thing. But overall, it's just missing a tick.
Yeah,
it's just missing a tick on the passing game right now, which I guess we might be saying this August 20th, but it's kind of to be expected when you're breaking in new quarterbacks with a whole bunch of new receivers.
Yeah, I think it's correctable stuff, we assume.
Correct. It's not just like, oh God, they suck. There's no hope here. There's no talent here. It is absolutely correctable stuff. And they're good schemes. We know that. And there are open spaces in the defense against a good defense that they're just not exploiting right now because they don't seem to always be on the same page. Yeah,
again, not to go too far back in the past, but like 21, there was just, you would see during practice where these are going to be problem moments. Like they cannot get open. They cannot provide time. This is going to be an issue. That's not what I'm trying to get at here. These plays are opening up. So obviously your coaching staff is scheming up the right stuff. Guys are running the right routes. They're getting open, but the throws aren't being there sometimes. Other times the quarterback is ready to go. He's making the right decision, but the receiver's not on the same page. And again, they got 20 more of these before they're actually going to play a football game of consequence in Dublin, Ireland. So that gives them plenty of runway to clean these things up. So just take that in mind. Just need to balance out how I don't know, Corey. It's just me. I don't want to. We sat and talked so effusively about the running game and everything. I just don't want everybody to think that this is going to be an offense that's going to average 500 yards. So it's like, all right, they're going to be just fine. They're going to compete and they're going to win a whole bunch of games and be in the playoff most likely. But let's just tamp down perhaps a little bit.
And it is odd when you watch a practice, right? Because the plays that we watch the most, it's 1-on-1, 7-on-7, and 11-on-11. But even 11-on-11, some of it was situational where it was third down, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5. So it's mostly pass plays. So that's how we're judging the offense, by what we're seeing so far, is the pass plays, right? But in a game, it's not going to be majority pass plays. So, in the reason I brought that up is because if people hear us talking about the running game, and then we talk about, well, the passing game has its moments too. The defense wins most of the day. The defense, I think, is playing well. The defense wins more plays than it loses, which is what you want, right? That's exactly what you want. That's what you expect for the defense, especially this early on, the defense to be winning, and the defense is winning. Now, it does give up some plays because it's athletics, it's sports, it's college football. But by and large, I would say the defense has won the first week. The defense has been more impressive. I don't want people to think because we're talking about the running game and the running game looking so good that the defense looks weak. I think the defense is I'm as positive, bullish on the defense now as I was a week ago.
A week ago, I was as bullish on Corner Pocket Bar and Grill as I am right now in this very moment, Corey Clark. Hope you all will go out to trivia night, 7 o'clock. Will you be competing, Corey? Flexing your muscles?
I believe I will. Yep. We finished second last week. Hopefully we can take it up one more notch tonight and bring the brass prize home. Did I tell you that? Oh, no, ahead. Keep talking about Corner Pocket.
CPTallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, physical address. Those lunch specials, as you all know, only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. But on Tuesdays, it's Taco Tuesday, all day tacos. Soft shell, hard shell, beef, or chicken. You choose. Whatever you want. At the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Darts, billiards, trivia, bingo nights, TV on the screens. As Corey points out, people who know how to operate the TVs on the walls, the screens on the walls.
And that's a really big help at this time of year because, number one, I'd like the Little League World Series in all its forms to be off my TV until it's actually the Little League World Series. I don't need to see the regionals from somewhere in Alabama. I just don't need to see it.
Nope.
I see enough boy baseball. I don't need to see it for a month. But also, they're good at if you want a certain Olympic event. Yeah, they'll go and do that for you.
Awesome. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Did you want to go on a rant there, Corey, after the reads had been done?
No, I just wanted to pat myself on the back for, I didn't tell people this, but I'm going to now. On the cruise, they had an 80s, like name that tune 80s music portion of the cruise for about 20 minutes. And I went 40 for 40. They played 20 songs. I could name the song and the artist of all 20, and I got a little plastic trophy with a cruise ship on top of it. When I get my new studio set up, if I ever get a new house, my new studio, that's going to be prominently displayed as my 80s music trophy.
What was the margin of victory?
I didn't. I tied with with a couple.
Well, they cheated.
There were two of them. You're right. They did cheat, and also it was so nonchalant that we all graded our own paper. Like, it wasn't like we're turning answers in or anything. Okay. We graded our own paper, but I went 40 for 40. I was fired up about it.
What do you remember what the trickiest one was that you really like? Man, I'm good.
Well, because they would play the first 10 seconds of a song and that was it. So it was the James Brown "Living in America."
Okay.
I knew it was him because he was doing his hit, that kind of stuff, but I couldn't quite tell from the music what the song was, but I took a shot and got it right.
Look at that. Corey Clark, everybody.
Yep. Got to get in the hot tub. Remember, that was one of Eddie Murphy's best sketches.
All right, let's move on to the defense. I thought Omar Graham had a good day.
Okay,
He was involved in the mix. Some PBUs, triggered well. Sean Murphy made it home when his number was called on a play. Probably would have been able to absolutely destroy the quarterback, but he checked up. So linebackers, I'm seeing some more improved play, maybe at least some more flashes, which is crazy to say because, again, both those linebackers from last year are in the NFL right now. And apparently, Kalen DeLoach had a really killer camp, too, so that's awesome for him.
Yeah, good.
And then it's just, Farmer and Darrell Jackson. I hope you guys don't get bored of hearing how awesome they are, but they're incredible. They really are. When they go through the drills where they're supposed to club the dummy that's ahead of them, the tackling dummy, Corey, like Odell's yelling at them to be violent. The certain way there's certain guys when they kick the ball, you can tell it's this kicker versus that kicker just by the way the sound of the foot hitting the ball. Like, it's Farmer and Jackson by the thud, like the acoustics of their hands smacking against these things. And they do it in drills. Grady Kelly as well. Grady Kelly had a really nice play where he just absolutely just violent hands on the offensive lineman in front of him that was trying to drop back into their set, and they had their hands up, and he absolutely just walloped a guy and got right by him. I think the guy was on scholarship too, if I'm not mistaken. This defense continues to look really good. Right now for you, is it that front six, if you will, or is it the back end of the defense that you seem to think might be the strength or is leading the way, at least right now, through these 5 practices?
Yeah, I would say right now, honestly, it's probably the secondary. Just because there's still some question marks at if you're going to include the linebackers as part of that front 6 or front 7, then I would go with the secondary as the strength. Just because there's still so many, there's some question marks with the linebackers still. You mentioned Murphy. I thought he had a nice day overall. I thought he had his best day. He had another tackle for loss on the day. He and Riley wrapped up a running back at the line of scrimmage. They triggered and made a good read and got there quickly. So maybe he's starting to get a little more comfortable. Maybe he's part of the rotation. I think Riley absolutely will be in some role and capacity. But yeah, I'd like to see a little more consistency out of the linebacker play. And I just think when you look at the Florida State secondary, Shaheem Brown, Fintrell Cypress, another good day on Monday, by the way. Had 2 PBUs. Don't know that he gave up a catch to Wayne McCoy, who, by the way, we should talk about in a second. But Cypress had another good day. You know what his REA is. Earl Little, really competitive. I think he's a potential NFL player, perhaps. So you've just got guys there that you just feel. I think they've been more dominant than the defensive line so far, but. It's a good problem to have when you're asking, which part of your defense is more dominant? The one, this one up front that has NFL players, or the one in the back that has NFL players? It's a good problem to be in, and I just think that they both looked good. I think the secondaries looked a little bit better. Yeah.
Sione Lola, I thought maybe had his best day as well too. He was involved in every single way. I mean, he
had a PBU as well.
Yeah. That was
moved pretty well on that one. I thought really, to get in that position. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, in some of the pass rush situations they were running at, he was just getting past his
another grown man, dude.
Yeah,
just a grown man right there, 22 years old and just physical.
Yeah, a lot of good options there, obviously on the defensive line. So we'll come back to maybe some defensive kind of questions, a bigger picture towards the end of the show here, Corey. But to go back to the offense, I know we spoke to the running backs coach David Johnson, but we spoke to Hakeem as well. Wayne McCoy, you mentioned him. You and Ira both mentioned him in your Warchant rap. These receivers, is it still Malik and then everybody else, or do you think there's still a battle for the big chair, if you will, in that wide receiver room?
Yeah, I think Malik didn't have his best day on Monday. He dropped. He had a ball go through his hands in red zone 11 on 11 that he needs to catch. It wasn't a great throw, but it was certainly catchable. And then he just flat out dropped one in the end zone about an hour later in red zone. I think that was 7 on 7 maybe. But he dropped one there too. He's got to make that catch. That's what number 1 guys do. He made other great catches, including one you were talking about where he got knocked to the ground.
Yes.
It wasn't intentional. Devontae Brown just lit him up. And he really – I want to paint the picture. It's a pass in the middle of the field. Devontae Brown is breaking on the ball, so he's trying to go get and intercept the pass. Malik Benson snares it with his hands, but Devontae Brown is running full speed towards the ball, so it's not like he can just evaporate. So him running full speed to a receiver that's cutting in front of him, there was just contact. He didn't go out of his way to just smoke him. It just so happened it was incidental, very hard contact. Malik Benson, great hands catch, gets the thud knocked out of him and hangs onto the ball for a first down. That's big time stuff, man. Especially when you're probably not even expecting you're going to get hit. It's a practice in July. And for him to still hold on to the ball where they're not all doing that was really impressive, man. That he continues, even though he didn't have a great day, I still think he's separated himself enough. And I also think Hakeem Williams stacked on another good day. Didn't make a ton of plays in team, but he was getting open. And also his releases in one-on-ones, he is showing some quickness that just wasn't there a year ago. So you start to get you start to froth at the mouth a little bit, to use a really bizarre phrase.
All right.
At what he can be if he puts it together. And I know that now that I've been working out for like 2 years, I probably talk about dudes' bodies more than I should.
It's okay, man.
It's
Lean
probably
into it.
off-putting.
Lean into it, buddy.
But so we're talking to Hakeem. I don't know if you can see it on the video on our Warchant YouTube page.
No,
but he's got his shirt hiked up.
No, I don't. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not that guy. I didn't do that.
You're not zooming down for his abs.
Nope.
But it's not just that he has abs, but he looks almost skinny in his midsection. But he's not skinny. No. You know what I mean? Like, he's put together. I don't know what they list him at, but he's over 200 pounds, right?
Oh yeah.
But he looks like I don't know how, just fit. I don't know what the word is, but I thought he was thicker than that. He's got some twitch to him, and he's got some speed and quickness to him that maybe I wasn't sure he would ever have. It really seems to be showcasing itself more and more as the practices go on, which is good to see, because at that size, if he can have that kind of quickness and just flat-out speed, that's a tough cover, everyone. So hopefully that keeps happening.
6'2", 215.
Yeah, man. And I'm just telling you, if you look at him with the shirt up,
he's got the waist. He's got the waist of like a teenage, like a freshman or sophomore, but his torso as a whole and his lower half are grown,
his
built
legs
Division I elite athlete.
And they're big, man. He's a put together kid. He wears it well, I guess I should say. He doesn't look. Usually sometimes when you're in the neighborhood of 220, people start talking about, maybe you move him to tight end eventually. No chance with him. Like he's just put together in a way that should elicit a lot of getting open in the middle of the field and maybe running by people. But talking to him, and I'm so glad he said this, because this is kind of how I've tried to explain it, and I'm glad that me and Hakeem are on the same page when it comes to this kid. But we did ask him. I think I asked him about LaWayne McCoy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, because he's like, oh, man, they're the truth or they're fire. Whatever he said, whatever young phrase, it probably wasn't the truth. Whatever young phrase he used. I think he said they're lit or they got
facts.
Riz.
Facts. He's like, facts.
Facts. He kept saying facts. There you go. Yeah. But he talked about, he was asked about LaWayne McCoy. And he said, yeah, man, they're going to be really good. He was talking about him and Elijah. They're going to be really good. And I'm like, well, what do you like about LaWayne? And he goes, well, he's twitchy, he's fast, he's got great hands. And he goes, he's a receiver. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been saying. He is just a receiver. He just feels like one of those dudes that just has a knack, an instinct for playing the position at a very, very high level. And LaWayne had a touchdown in 7-on-7 red zone, working against the not great DBs, maybe. I shouldn't say not great, just lower on the depth chart DBs. But it's still a touchdown. I think they only had two. He had one of them. Toafili had the other one out of like 15 or 20 plays. And then he was, he caught a pass from DJ against Ventrell Cypress. So good to get that kind of work. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that will probably be the last time he catches a pass from DJ. That's how impressive he's been through 5 days, in my opinion. Like I think he's definitely on a trajectory to play this season, perhaps play a lot. He's watching those releases, watching his coming in and out of breaks. He does have great hands. I can't remember him dropping one. He's a competitor. Just you like everything about the kid.
And the fact that he's from Miami, and Miami's probably going to rue the fact that you did not land him. That always helps a little bit, too.
Yep.
Hey, back to the Malik Benson catch where he got flattened. Was the ball tipped, or was he bobbling it? Because
he was bobbling it, too. I think he bobbled it a little bit, yeah.
That was the whole – like when I'm like, I can't believe he just made that catch. Because I saw him like drop one earlier in the day, but I'm like, he makes that one, though. But which is a good thing. I mean, he bounces back, and he's focused, so I think we'll still hedge it like minus 125. Malik's like your leading wide receiver, and then everybody else is like plus 150, plus 200, and kind of ticks down from there. So good place to be. Lots of depth. I'm relatively sure if Adam Smith, the father of economics, was with us today, he would be a fan of Manscaped. Smith, as you all remember, argued things like the invisible hand and, more importantly, specialization, saying that companies are going to grow, hires are going to be made, and they should have defined roles and specialize in one skill. So yeah, you've got some clippers, but they have a role. Manscaped has a more specialized place in a man's grooming arsenal. Some might say a more delicate role, one involving the moneymaker, to bring it back to Adam Smith and economics. How about the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra? It features skin-safe blades and a cordless design, which is kind of clutch. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code WARCHANT at manscaped.com. 20% discount, free shipping. Manscaped.com. Be him and trim. On the way out, though, Corey, I was going to ask you this. Couple things. So I'm glad I looked this up before asking Mike Norvell and looking like an idiot. You know, people always ask us, like, is this the year finally there's a 1,000-yard receiver, 1,000-yard rusher? And I'm like, you know, it's a fair question because he's had this everywhere he's been practically. I haven't gone back to look at Arizona State, but at least his head coaching stop at Memphis, Corey, that he either had, like, you know, Darrell Henderson and Kenneth Gainwell, or, you know, he had like two backs, or Tony Pollard and Darrell Henderson were both running like madmen, and he had the receiver that had like over 1,500 yards, and then the Doxy kid who had like close to 1,800, I want to say. Yeah, man, those offenses in Memphis were a little bit different than what we're getting done here at the Power 5 level. So his first year, they average 463 yards of offense, and then they followed that with going 532 in 17, 523 in 18, and 485 yards per game in 2019. So all that to say his offenses at Memphis averaged 500 yards every season. Yeah. Last year, they averaged 401 yards.
Memphis did, or Florida State?
No, Florida State did.
Oh, okay.
So, again, though, I mean, you know, 3 games at suboptimal combinations of quarterback and things of that nature. So, I mean, but you would not have jumped up, I don't know, maybe you're at 440-ish?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I could do the math real quick, but, yeah, you're probably in the 440, 450 range because I don't – did they have 200 yards of offense in either of their last 2 games? I can't imagine they did.
No, I don't think so.
So, yeah, they hit 400 yards in 2 games total. And against Florida, they probably had 300. So they had 700 yards in the last 3 games, which means before that, yeah. How many yards did they finish with as a team? I'm going to do the math real quick. I want to show off. Total yards.
I don't know, like, the raw number of yards.
Oh, then never mind. Too late. It's ruined. I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. I forgot they played 11 games with Jordan, right? Not 10.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So never mind. But yeah, I bet they probably were in the neighborhood of 440 before Jordan got hurt. Probably or after the North Alabama game, they were probably averaging 440 or 450 yards per game.
So brought that one up. Meanwhile, though, a little bit of a weird esoteric question here, kind of more macro scale, 20,000 foot view of things.
What was the point of that you just said with all the Memphis stuff?
Well, just the fact, like, probably don't hold your breath for them having a 1,000-yard guy.
Oh yeah. It's a different league, right? Like, you don't get to play Tulsa in the ACC. I know the ACC isn't incredible, but they have real players and real draft picks and good in coaching. So it's tougher up here at this level, and also there's less plays being run now. So all that adds to not putting up the numbers you had against when you were at Memphis. But yeah, they've still been pretty good.
Yeah, they won all the games. The important thing, they win the games. But I want to ask you this kind of weird question as I was just watching practice, and I'm sure, you know, being and doing what we did, at least like covering preps, Corey, during the preseason, every summer you go out and you interview the high school team and you ask them about how their upcoming season is going to be, and you're previewing their season. And, you know, every player swears that, you know, they've worked the hardest. This team is practicing harder than anybody else in the state. We're going to win the state championship this year. And then, you know, they end up losing like 3 or 4 games and they don't win states. I'm sure like Georgia Tech feels really good right now about where they're at. Like Haynes King, they've got their leading rusher back. I think they've got like 3 out of maybe their 4 leading receivers back from last year. So I'm sure they feel really good. Florida State obviously feels really good too about where they're at. I feel good about Florida State because I think when it comes down to it and Georgia Tech lines up across from Florida State, they're going to be like, oh boy, like this is different than what we've gone up against the last 25 practices. I don't think it's going to be nearly any kind of shock to Florida State system about who they're going to be lined up across from in Dublin, Ireland. what segment do you think is going to be maybe like the most overwhelming advantage for Florida State when we look at it through kind of that prism? I personally think Georgia Tech's defensive line is going to be overpowered by what Florida State's offensive line is going to throw at them. Do you think Georgia Tech's receivers are going to be like, damn, like this 8 kid and 23 and one over the top? How the hell are we supposed to get open? Is there any kind of overarching mismatch you think right now that Florida State's probably going to be able to hold on to after 20 more practices for both of these teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to how we started the show. Georgia Tech's run defense last year was abysmal. It was one of the worst in the country, one of the worst in the Power 5. And Florida State should be able to run the ball this year. So that, to me, is the biggest advantage, is what you're going to be doing. You're running a game against their run defense, which, here's the thing, it will get to a point, typically, not all the time. I mean, look at the Miami game from 22 and the Syracuse game from 22. It's not like Jordan lit those teams up. You just ran all over them. But with yardage, I mean, I know Jordan had like 5 touchdowns against Syracuse. What, didn't he, like, caught one, threw for 3, ran for 1? But anyway, Georgia Tech, I don't think Georgia Tech can defend Florida State traditionally without bringing an extra body up near the line of scrimmage to try to stop the run. I think if they just sit back, they'll get gashed. And I think they know that. So they're going to have to adjust for their deficiencies in the run defense by being very aggressive near the line of scrimmage, in my opinion, which is why so that opens up everything. Everything. If your passing game can find itself, you're going to have so many one-on-one matchups because you should be able to run the ball. They're going to have to put so much effort into stopping you run the ball. Theoretically, this is what we want. This is what you're assuming will happen, that the passing game should be wide open. But you got to establish it first, and I think they will. I think Georgia Tech's going to make Florida State establish that they're better at the line of scrimmage than they were last year. They're going to be a better running team than they were last year. And when they do establish that, and Georgia Tech has to start making its modifications to its defense to try to stop the running game, that's when you can hit some home runs. But I think that's all predicated on that being the biggest mismatch. It's your offensive line versus their defensive line in the run game.
How many incompletions do you think Jordan Travis had against Syracuse back in 2022, the 38-3 victory in the Carrier Dome? JMA
3?
Dome, sorry.
3.
That would have been over, yeah. If I was at 2.5.
Was he 20 of 22?
He was 21 of 23.
That's crazy. For what? How many yards?
155.
That's right, man. And they won. What, they won 38-3?
Yeah. He had.
And I feel like they took a knee at the 1 yard line, or it could have been 45-3. Like that's. And then look at the. Can you pull it? So he threw for less than what did he throw for 150 yards in that game?
155.
What did he do against Miami the week before? Can you look that up real quick?
Yeah, just real quick, though. He had 3 through the air. He had 1 on the ground, and he caught that Philly special after the defensive tackle started yapping. And then
yapping, a weirdo, man. Down 31-3, just yapping at the other sideline. He threw for 150 in that game. And then what did he do against Miami?
How many incompletions do you think he had against Miami, Corey?
I'm going to say 3 again.
2.
Man, Jordan Travis.
10 of 12 for 202.
Come on now, gang.
You
see what I'm saying?
He threw a pick, though, man. Come on.
Oh, he did. I remember. It was kind of like and then I think somebody maybe it was Kevin Noles intercepted that next series and gave him the ball at like the 5 something, or it was I can't remember. It was the slot corner that was good. Greedy Vance maybe. Somebody intercepted a ball right after that. After his interception, he was just kind of throwing it up for grabs, and the DB made a really good play. I can't quite remember how that play went, but that's what I'm talking about when it comes to this offense, man. Like, you put up, I think you scored 45 against Miami.
Correct.
And 38 against Syracuse. So you put up over 40 points, and your quarterback threw for an average of 175 yards. And in one game, he threw 12 passes. And you put up 45 points. Now, I think you're going to have to throw a little more than that this year, but maybe not much more. So all the hand-wringing about, is DJ as good as Jordan, or is DJ going to be great? If things are clicking like you want them to click, DJ don't have to be great. DJ just has to be pretty good. Obviously, you don't expect him to go 10 of 12. You don't expect him to have – so he had 4 incompletions in 2 games?
That is correct.
That's crazy. That's obviously not going to happen. But 150 yards, 202 yards, take advantage, hit the big play, and then run it down their throat is a really fun recipe to win football games, if you can do it.
There was a little bit of a gap between the picks, but you're right. Greedy Vance did intercept Miami.
Okay, all right.
So.
And set up a touchdown, maybe a Trey Benson touchdown. I don't
Yeah.
remember. But, yeah, it was a really good play. It was one of those where he if I remember correctly, because we always talked about how they weren't great at playing zone. And then Greedy Vance is, I think, near the line of scrimmage, or he's on the slot receiver or something. And then he sprints to a spot with his back to the quarterback and turns around, and the ball is thrown right to him. Like, he gets right to the spot where he's supposed to be. It's just obviously well executed from the young man, but just great coaching by our man Adam Fuller and company.
You called it, man. I just played the clip back, and I can see him just dropping back, finding the right depth. That was a good game. Don't think it's going to be 45-3 this time around, though. But
that was probably the best stretch of Norvell's career at Florida State, I would say, is like that month. Where
that was
they,
incredible. The way they came out of that
did
bye
to Georgia
week.
Tech. Yeah, they came out of the bye week. What they did to Georgia Tech, and obviously not a very good Georgia Tech team, but they smoked them. The score wasn't indicative of how bad they beat them that day. And then they go on the road 2 straight weeks and outscore their opponents, 83-6? Didn't give up a touchdown. Like that was dominant. And that was the start of what this program is now. That was a really important stretch in Mike Norvell's history.
Yeah, coming out of that bye week, 41, 45, 38, 49, 45, and then 35 in the bowl game.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Pretty good.
It was pretty fun. Pretty fun to watch.
And they ran for like 200 yards every single game.
Except the Oklahoma one.
Right.
And then he threw for 400. So they had multiple ways to beat you.
Pick your poison, everybody. Pick your poison. All right, Seminole headlines coming up later today, 1 to 3 o'clock. Jeff, Corey, and Ira, not necessarily in that order of importance, but they'll be doing the show. Also on 93.3 FM. We'll have another show for you folks. Live show Wednesday, Corey, right? That's our day now, I guess. Wednesdays at 6. Live.
Okay.
Wake up.
Live show Wednesday at 6. Got it. Locked and loaded.
And then we'll probably do a mailbag for the Friday program. So I think that's kind of the groove we hope to get in. We'll have more observations, obviously, tomorrow's show, which we think will be full pads after they're in full pads today, hopefully. So look out for that on Wednesday. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.